Hi guys, welcome to Winsome Cottage Garden. My name is Hannah and I'm so glad that you decided to join me today. Today we are in the home garden and I thought for this midweek video we would revisit the plant hoard and get some of the things into the ground. I went on a recent shopping trip. I made a couple shorts about it. If you didn't see, I've been experimenting with them. Comment below if you like them, if you've seen them. And I picked up 20 plants, some of which aren't staying here, so I guess that's good. They're going to cottage. But there were a number of them that I knew exactly where they were going. So I thought today we'd whittle down the plant hoard a little bit. So this will be like a quick get it in the ground video that we're going to use to help break up some of the colors that I talked about in my last garden tour. Recently, I did an August home garden tour here in the backyard, which this backyard has entirely been created in the last year and a half, 2 years. One of the things I talked about in it is needing to break up some of the color blocks I unintentionally created when I planted these things, because I planted them in the fall. I knew what they looked like, but sometimes when you know what they look like versus you're seeing them blooming, it just looks a little bit different. So I picked out some things to help round out these beds. Let's go take a look and go get them in the ground. Okay, so we recently redid the garden hoard. You're actually seeing this out of order. So this is what I'm going to be working on this afternoon. So if it looks different than the last time you saw it, or if you didn't know I was working on this, go watch my video from last Saturday. But before I get to this, I thought I would do an easy win and get these 3 things in the ground. I want to get this Sun King in the ground, this Echinacea, and I want to pick 1 or 2 of the yarrow, as well as getting the butterfly bush in. I also have an idea of where the Stokesaster is going to go, and its pot is falling apart, so I'm probably going to place that in a couple areas. And it's earlier in the morning here. The sun is just starting to hit this bed, so I really want to quickly try and get this done before it gets too hot, because when it gets too hot, no bueno, no fun. So let me place a couple things. Oh, look at this, you guys. We talked about this in the garden tour. Oh, but this is a summerific berry awesome hibiscus, and it's hitting its stride now. So many beautiful blooms. And actually this right here is where we're going to put that mellowy color Echinacea. I might need to do some staking of that. Anyway, it's looking good. If you missed my garden, I mean, I'm biased, but I think you should go look at it, because I always think June is peak, but I feel like this is pretty good. My late summer interest game is strong. Anyway, I'm going to grab a couple things, place them, and then we will get them planted before I come back and give you some stats on the plants. Okay, I got everything in the ground, and I just looked at myself in the mirror. I don't think you saw me up close, but it is very humid right now, so I sweat all the makeup I had off, and which is why in the summer I typically don't wear makeup in videos, just because it gets in my eyes. Ugh. But anyway, I cleaned my face up. If you could see it up close in any of the videos, disregard. But I got everything placed and planted. I was debating a little bit on what color I wanted to use in a couple areas, because I had a lot of options for my last garden shopping trip. And I was debating, because I know there's some things I still want to pick up, what the color would look like, what kind of eyeline it would have. But in the end, I think I like where these are, and they're not permanent. So if next year when everything's in bloom, I'm like, oof, wasn't quite what I was thinking, I can move it. The joy of gardening. Let's take a closer look at where these plants ended up. I'll talk about some of the color choices I made, and we'll take a closer look at some of the stats on them. I'm also kind of dirty. I'm going to do the ones furthest in the sun first, all the way to the shade, because it's going to get real hot today. It's extremely humid, as I mentioned, And even though it's only going to get mid-70s, I think the real feel is supposed to be about 90. And the humidity, man, this summer has just been killer. We had a break this week. Yesterday was a glorious day. I was really hoping it would continue, but alas, not so much. Anyway, this is the first one we got on the ground. Right here we planted a beautiful yarrow, and this is a Proven Selections new vintage Terracotta, which is like yellow and tanny peachy oranges. I have not grown this particular one before, but I was really hoping the garden center I went to had one, and they had one left in their whole stock, which was actually quite a feat because I made the trek to Garden Crossings, which if you're in West Michigan, I highly suggest making that trek. They specialize in proven selections and proven winners, and I think they're more of a destination greenhouse rather than like a local greenhouse because they only really carry those main lines. A couple other specialty things, but that's basically it. And they also have an online store. I've obviously never ordered anything from the online store. But it's really cool to see. They have a beautiful test garden. I actually did a short about my visit, so I'll link that below if you want to see kind of what it looks like. And they have a huge selection of proven selections and proven winner plants. And this is what I was hoping they would have. I wanted this one and another one. I found one of these. And then I had to ask about another one, which they did have some in the back. And when she was ringing me up, she was like, oh, we don't have any of this in the back. So you're lucky you bought it. Ready to go. They might have some in a little bit because they're a grower too. Anyway, terracotta. This is an area where there's a lot of blues and purples. And I thought the orangey terracotta would be a nice welcome pop here. You'll see, we're going to go talk about that in a second. But I do think, I wish there was room, and there might still be, to stick an echinacea back there that's more pink. I'm just kind of still thinking about it. This is an area that we need to develop more. There's huge spaces, but I want to think about what I want in some of these big spaces before I just start filling it up. Here, I could tell what I was missing. So I think this orange terracotta will do really well here. It's going to get 26 to 28 inches tall, full sun, and we'll get 12 to 14 wide, so a little bit narrow, but I think that's okay in this space, and is hardy in zones 4A through 9B. Yeah, and I think that pretty orange pop will look really beautiful there. And we have enough of these like orangey colors now that's a repeated element. I've talked about it before, but one of the things I really wanted to do in this big border was make sure there were a couple of repeated elements, whether it's the same plant or the same color family, because that helps tie it all together. There's a lot of space in here for me to fill out and make this the cottage garden of my dreams. And actually this corner is starting to look real good. And I'm so thrilled with this coneflower we added right here. And you know, it is a tiny bit close to some of these things, so I might end up having to move it in the near future. But I'm kind of debating if this was the right spot for this bloomerang lilac. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to see what it is, because at the very least I'll see it probably from the window, and I think it'll be okay here. It might just need to fight a little bit. But this is a Sombrero Granada Gold coneflower, and look at that. It'll get 18 to 22 inches tall, and it'll get 22 to 24 inches wide, and is hardy in zones 4A to 9B. So very, very hardy. And I know they called it gold. Oh, it's hazy already. Hold on. I know they called it gold, and it looks very gold here. I wish I could get it to show. It's like a peachy gold. Not quite like bright yellow, but a soft old gold with hints of orange, and I think that is exactly what this space needed. We talked about it in the garden tour that I was thinking about it, and then the next day I went and found this, and it was glorious. After that, we walked over here and planted a yarrow and a Stokesaster. This is one of the ones I was debating. It is a Firefly Sunshine, and it's a bright, clear yellow. And I was debating whether that would be jarring here. I'm going to try it. I think I put like 4 or 5 different ones here. I do want a statement plant there. I want something that's going to pop, especially because it's now focused on the window. It'll get quite tall. It'll help break up the blue. And I do have plans to add some sunflowers. Well, actually, Black-Eyed Susan, the type over there that's tall. So it'll be like gold yellow, bright yellow, apricot yellow, orange. amongst the blues and the pinks. And I think that should be pretty. Again, if I don't like it, I'll move it. But this one will get 28 to 30 inches tall, and it'll get 24 to 28 wide, and is hardy in zones 3 through 8. Pretty hardy. I'm in a zone 6. Yarrow is something I didn't move a lot of in my old garden because they were in areas I didn't think I could, and I knew I could get more. So I think I tried to split 2. One didn't survive, and one is in the front and looking a little bit sad. It's one of the varieties that I love, though, and I did buy some more. I didn't plant it today, so you'll see it in a future video. But I wanted to have lots of yarrow in here because I also love it as a filler flower. The bees and the butterflies love it, and I think it adds like a really nice soft spot in a garden. And it's got really pretty ferny texture, and that's something that I needed back here. So that bright yellow is going to be right next to the Stokesaster. And it might look from a distance that it's white, but I'd actually say it's like a very blushy pink. I'm interested to see how it ages. I got one that had lots of nice buds, and this is quite small now, but it's going to get 24 to 26 inches tall. It's called Totally Stoked Whitecaps, and you can see that blushy color there. And this will get 32 to 36 inches wide, and it's hardies in zones 5 through 9. And it says early to late summer, but I feel like I see this in the fall too. Could be wrong. But I think that bright white light color will mirror like the blushy of the balloon flower. It'll be a nice beacon. It also kind of mirrors the hydrangea over here, which is a little quick fire. And I think it'll be a nice white pop that will draw out the other colors. I've mentioned it before, white is not something I use a ton of because I love vibrant color, but you have to add a couple elements of it because it allows the other colors to pop more. It will shine in and of itself because it's going to be surrounded by color, but the white offsets the colors in a way that they both look better. So something I realized I was missing in this space was that light white element that I needed to kind of work back in. So we got the Stokesaster. We also planted something right in front of my beautiful dragon friend. And this was another one that I debated what color I wanted here. I knew I wanted some yarrow, and I have a white yarrow. I have a peach yarrow that I really considered because I thought, oh, then maybe one more of those elements over here. I also considered like a bright pinky yarrow. And in the end, I put them all back and I picked red. And we got one little bloom, which you can see what it's gonna look like. It's really pretty. This is Firefly Pop Red, and this is a very vibrant red. It'll get 24 to 28 inches tall and 24 to 28 inches wide, and is hardy in zones 3 through 8. And as you can see one more time, that vibrant red, because it doesn't have a ton of color on it now. I like red flowers, but I'm careful about what tones of red I add into my yard. I'm not the biggest fan of like fire engine red because I think it draws your eye and keeps it. My mom has a lot of fire engine reds, and I like them in her yard because she's had to counter them with other vibrant colors. I have a lot of vibrant colors in here. As I mentioned earlier, it's something I liked, but I have a lot of soft colors too. And I think it's just a delicate balance. This, though, I think helps hit that balance, particularly in this area, because both this Althea has hints of red in the center, as does this hibiscus. This is the All Eyes on Me. And I think that red is close to the magenta red of the center. And I'm hoping that it kind of mimics those and kind of sits well in this area. It's also going to be toned by the pinks in the little quick fire. And I like my dragon here. And I think it'll be kind of fun to have something red right at the bottom because it'll look like he was breathing fire. At my old house, I had Lucifer's tongue where the dragon was, and that is a fire engine red. I didn't bring any with me because we have some at the cottage. If I change my mind, I can easily take some of those, but I'm gonna try and get my hands on some yellow Crocosmia Lucifer's tongue because I think that might fit this vibe a little bit more. And it's a beautiful tropical-ish looking plant that I'm always surprised grows up in our northern zone. I just turned off the water, which you may have heard in the background, to show you the shade area because I added a couple things in here and I'm loving how this is coming together. Now, this is an area that is very dry because it's under this spruce tree and there's basically no rain and not much sun. maybe a tiny bit in this area. So this will get a shot of evening sun as it kind of comes under the canopy. But it's an area I know I need to figure out drip. In the meantime, I've just been watering by hand. And sometimes I don't do it quite as much as I should. So these things will put on size as I figure out the water situation a little bit more. But this, since it gets almost no sun, is all about foliage. Except I found these really intriguing plants that I've never grown before, but I'm excited about because they have beautiful yellow flowers and they're part shade to shade. They're called Canary Feathers Cordalis. They'll get 9 to 12 inches tall, and they're going to get 9 to 12 inches wide and are hardy. They're marginal here. So we are zone 6B. So 6A through 9B. This, though, is a very protected spot, so I'm hopeful that they'll do well. I'm kind of in an interesting situation. I've talked about my zone a little bit before. I am in West Michigan. I'm about 3 miles as the crow flies from Lake Michigan, which is one of the largest bodies of fresh water in the world. It acts as a tempering effect. So even though I'm fairly north, I have a very warm zone. Like one of my best friends lives in Champaign, Illinois, mid-Illinois, and they're also zone 6B, which is crazy to me because we get a lot of snow, but we don't get super cold, and that's all because the lake helps keep us warm. If you go more inland, the zones will drop, and if you go further north, they'll drop. But like my old house, which was only about 30 minutes away, it was a zone 5. So that really made a difference. And one of the things I've noticed is that I have elements of my yard, whichever yard has this, that are definitely microcosms, that they're more protected, and I've had things come back that shouldn't. For instance, I had some dahlias come back this year, which we love to see, but they shouldn't have. And then, because I think there's a hardy in its own 8. So this area in particular is protected. So even though this is, sometimes it's risky to plant something that is like your zone in the northern climate, I find, you have to know that a bad winter might take it away. I think I'm fairly confident this is going to do well here. And I had to try. I mean, look at them. I don't know if they're going to bloom like this if they get no sun, but I'm really thrilled to try. What I liked is they're like ferny, almost bleeding heart-ish texture, but a little bit more fern-like. The yellow is like a bonus because I think this contrast is pretty. This wee Hasta, I should also mention, I came in and built some soil up around here and added some mulch, which I mixed with soil to just really add a lot more organic matter here. This had some of the soil washed away, and I think its roots were being nibbled on. It's going to look rough. I'm hopeful that we have saved it for now and that it will come back looking great in the future. But this is also an area, I mean, ignore this. I have an ambitious goal that one day this will be like a little secret garden with a little walled bed and like a patio seating area. But there are so many elements of my yard that I really want to focus on. And this is one I just don't see. And it's also a great area for me to hold like brush that can't go in my normal yard waste collection until my dad gets here, where we can put it in a trailer and take it to the dump. So for this year and probably next year and maybe even the year after that, this is probably going to be a future thing. It'll look a little derelict, but again, the only person who sees it is this window, which is a bedroom window, but it's one that doesn't get used a lot. So bonus. Nobody sees it except me. And now we have these beautiful plants here that eventually, when it is a secret garden, they will help pull you back. This is a plant I'll talk about in a second, but I wanted to also talk about this bluey icy green and mention the Artemisia as well as the Brunnera. It kind of creates like different textures of the same color, and then I've popped other colors in and amongst them, which help offset things. So even though this is a deep shade area, it's still really interesting. And this is a really pretty bright, like chartreusey yellow green mirrored in this heuchera that one of you actually suggested I keep an eye out for. And I looked at all the suggestions people made, and this is one that really stood out to me as kind of perfect for this area. It is a Sun King Golden Japanese Spikenard. It'll say it'll get 30 to 36 inches tall. It's part shade to shade. It'll get 30 to 36 wide as well, and is hardy in zones 3A through 9B. Now, one of the things that I read about it from a lot of people is that it grew a lot bigger than expected if it liked its space. I would actually like it to grow bigger than that. Some places said it got up to like 5-6 feet. And if that did that here, I would be happy, because I think that would also create the walled little secret space I want. This, by the way, is going to be cut. I just need my dad to bring his ladder. But going back to this, I think a bright yellow sun gold is so needed here, because it's going to draw your eye. Eventually there'll be more of a path here, but you can see that it is pulling you through. We've got other elements of chartreuse that will help anchor. And the fact that it's full shade is welcome, because this is a hard area for me to figure stuff out. It also likes wall draining soil, which I got. And I really think it's going to be pretty there and help complete this bed, which actually this is now probably fairly complete until I work on this side. I might pick up another heuchera. Thank you to the person who suggested that, because I think you are right. It is the perfect plant to have back here. I popped the water back on because it was very dry back there. I haven't moved the sprinkler back there in a little bit because it's been raining. But sometimes I forget that just because it's raining doesn't mean that it is actually getting back there. And I still need to go out and move the sprinkler around. Let's talk about the last plant that we got in the ground, which is one that's very special to me. This right here, butterfly bush, is a Miss Molly butterfly bush. I've talked about this before. One of my sisters died last year, whose name was Molly, and I knew this butterfly bush existed. It's one of her favorite colors, and I knew I had to find a spot for it. I've actually had this for quite some time, and I've been debating about where to put it, because it gets kind of tall. It gets 4 to 5. Yeah, 4 to 5 tall and wide. But it was one of those things where you had so many options, you were almost paralyzed by choices. And I can move this if I have to, is the reality. So I put it here. It'll do better in the ground. I had a hard time. It is fairly drought tolerant, but I had a hard time keeping it watered because there was a crack in the can, and I just needed to get it in the ground, get it happy. This is kind of where all my rows are, but the spacing is right for the area. We're on the east end of the garden. So we started planting over there, kind of in the sunbed, headed over to the shaded area. And now we're in what I call the east end. We actually just mulched this recently, which made quite the difference, because this had been grass and lots of maintenance, but I need to slowly start filling it up. I don't think I'm going to do these row crops forever. And this was a good spot to put the Miss Molly butterfly bush, which will look like this. We'll go look closely at the blooms. They've got some color, but it's got a really rich, like amethysty purple, which I'm excited about. As mentioned, it is 4 to 5 tall and wide, non-invasive, which means it's sterile, which is nice. And it's also considered compact for a butterfly bush, which is exciting. And is hardy in zones 5 through 9. I bet it'll be in like partial sun, like dappled sun, for an hour or two, but then it's going to start getting a big shot of evening sun. So it'll get up to 6. So hopefully it likes this area. And I also kind of popped it up to the left a little bit more, because this is where the shade line is. And we've got our Gatsby Moon hydrangea, which gets quite large. That'll get 6 to 8 tall and wide. So I really had to back it off of that. But I think this area is also slightly sloped, and eventually I really want this to be like a bowl of interest. So you're kind of in the sunken yard grass space, which is fairly level, is the lowest point in this backyard. And I'd really love for, if you're standing here, to be like a bowl of color all the way around. And I think even though we've done a good job of the gradients of heights, the slightly elevated bed, you can see it's right there. It's a little hard to see behind the zinnias. That will be a really pretty deep pop against the oak leaf hydrangea. This is a St. Swithin rose, which is about to come back into bloom. And I think this will do really, really pretty here. You can see it is covered in buds, and we'll look forward to seeing it hit its stride. So that's going to do it for this midweek video. We got 10 plants out of the plant hoard and into the ground, which made a really big dent in it, which I'm excited about. I mentioned last time we had about 75 plants in the plant hoard that I want to get done this year. We planted 3 yesterday, 10 today, so we're down to 62. But I know myself, and I know I'm probably going to buy some to add to that count. I want to whittle it away while I can, because also these plants that are here are going to be so much happier in the ground than in containers behind me. I'm actually going to go work on a project that you guys have already seen. I wanted to get these things planted before the sun hit them, because where I'm working this afternoon is full shade, and it's going to be great. I am really glad that you decided to join me today. I appreciate every day that you do, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye-bye.